Well, hello everyone, and we're back with you for another episode of Boomer Life Lessons and Stories. I believe we're on episode 58, and we're creeping up on 60. So that will be another major milestone for us as we continue to try to help others by providing some insights into our life and our professional career. Things that might be of help to others, help them make their way through life. You know, one of the things that I strive to always do is to give back to the community, give back in either helping or being there for a friend or contributing dollars or whatever the case is. We're always endeavoring to do the right thing by not only taking care of our family, but taking care of and doing what we can for those around us who might be in need. And this is just one outlet for me. And I do enjoy doing these sorts of episodes, sharing parts of my life and insights that I may have that hopefully, at the end of the day, as the British say, you find it very, very helpful. Now, what is the title of this episode, number 58? It's a conversation between the number 6 and the number 9, and it's a modern fable. So before we go there and share the rest of that fable with you, how about you doing something for me? If you could, like, share, and subscribe, that would help me move this channel forward and perhaps reach more people, helping them as well. Okay, let's go ahead and get started then. A modern fable. Well, you know, in my mind's eye, I think of fables as a story that is created to carry a message, one that could be very helpful, or a cautionary message, one that would provide some insights about maybe some risk or dangers in people's lives. And you know, it's also oftentimes one that carries a message about human behavior and how we look at the world. And you know, that's what this one is. So let me just share the little conversation between number 6 and number 9, and then we'll go from there and talk about it. So one day, Mr. Six was out walking around the park just for a beautiful stroll, and it was a bright sunny day, and he sees an individual coming toward him off in the distance. And this individual didn't quite look right. He cocked his head to one side and said, "Wow, that is an odd person." And it was still Mr. Nine, who was approaching him, was still quite a ways off. Mr. Nine, on the other side of that, as he was walking through the park and turning a curve, he looked and saw another person coming toward him. And he also, too, thought, how odd. That's something about that person that just doesn't seem right. So as they slowly walked along the pathways, approaching one another, they tipped their hats as they met and stopped. And they were just kind of looking each other up and down. And Mr. Nine turns to Mr. Six and says, "How odd. You're certainly an odd looking person. Why are you standing on your head?" Mr. Six kind of looks astounded and said, "Well, sir, it is not I that's standing on my head. You're such an odd fellow. Why are you standing on your head? Don't you find it quite hurtful to do so? It gives you a different look of the world. Why are you doing that?" And so the conversation went on and on like this. And soon they came to the end and recognized that neither of them is going to get the other one to straighten out. Right? Now that's another conversation. But they continued on their way and thought, as they left the presence of the other, this has been a most interesting day. What do you think about that? What do you think about meeting and talking to people that don't kind of fit your idea of who they should be? Isn't it something that is perhaps showing a little bias? that everybody should look the same. You know, one of the things that I realized in my life early on, and I thank my mom and dad for this, they always told us that there are many people out in the world. They're not always acting like you or I would act, and not always dressing as you or I would dress, but it makes the world rich in terms of being very interesting. And as long as we're being respectful, we can have conversations and learn things about other people who are different from us that might make us a better person. I'll share with you something I shared early on in an earlier episode, and it's a true story. I played American Legion baseball, and we had quite a good team. And the team members, every Saturday before practice or before the game, we would get together and talk about the latest episode of Elliot Ness. And everybody knows that Elliot Ness was an FBI agent. He was the untouchable. He was not corruptible, right? And he was always chasing the bad guys. And you know, it was kind of interesting. The location of all the storylines typically was in Chicago. So you can imagine, as I was growing up playing baseball, and especially in this particular team, I got this very tainted view, I expect, of what Chicago was like. Now, fast forward, we roll through the rest of my high school years, we go into my college years, and I graduate, and then we roll into the second job I ever had out in industry as a working professional. And my boss come to me one day and says, Ron, we need you to go to Chicago, to the Chicago Laser Company. We're buying some lasers from them. We want you to take their class and learn how to use the lasers. And I was stunned, literally stunned. I thought, do I really want to go to Chicago? It's a very, very dangerous place. And so I had the conversation with my boss. I said, is it really necessary for me to go there? Now, what was I doing? I was letting my preconceptions and perhaps my biases hone in on how I viewed the world, how I viewed Chicago. And you know, I did go to Chicago and I spent a week there. But when I got off the plane and I drove over to the hotel, I was astounded. I was just really flabbergasted. I think that's what we say in the South. You're flabbergasted, right? I was stunned at it was completely different. As I drove around Lakeshore Drive looking for a place to stop and eat, I saw families out strolling along the sidewalk, walking and enjoying the lake views. I saw people in sidewalk cafes eating out with their families and friends. And nowhere did I see one gangster. Nowhere did I see a gangster out there shooting people. Nowhere did I see a gangster out there accosting people. It was really what was going on was I was looking at Chicago before I ever went there and making judgments about Chicago based on fiction or based on piecemeals of information. And here's the thing. Don't we all fall prey to that at one time or another? Why do we do that? Why do we let our preconceptions shade our views of people, places, and things? When we should open up our aperture, go and get to know the person directly, understand who they are and where they come from and what they're about. And by the same token, let them understand who we are, what we're about, and where we come from. Have a legitimate conversation so that we can grow as individuals and become more than we were before. You know, it is all about tolerance in the United States. We're all free citizens here. We have our liberties and we protect them dearly. And that's what I think makes America great. As long as we keep the respect of others in mind as we navigate this life, we will do well in our own lives. But you know, when people fail, they fail because they leverage and use misconceptions about people, places, and things. They have perhaps could be called wrong-headed ideas. And this type of thought patterns is very dangerous to individuals because it might lead them down a pathway that would alienate friends and members of the family and even colleagues. You see, people, you give them the benefit of the doubt. What you think about is, I want to get to know this individual. They're very interesting. They're very different from me, but that doesn't make me better. It doesn't make me worse than them. What it makes me is one who wants to get to know somebody so that I can grow as a person. And I love to have interesting conversations with people from different parts of the world and different parts of the United States. Even here in the United States, people up north do things a little bit different than people down in the South or here in Texas, right? And people over in California do things a little different than what we do here in Texas, or say even in Colorado. But it's not wrong just because they do something a little differently than you do. It's not wrong. It simply is just different. That's what it's all about, though. I find going to other countries and watching how people engage with one another interesting. My mother was a great people watcher. We would go to the park and we'd just sit there, or we'd go play, and she would watch the people as they strolled by. And then she'd comment on the things that she learned in the conversations she had with the new people that she met. And to me, that is intellectual growth, and that is personal growth. And that's all good. But what's bad is when you let your preconceived ideas and notions drive how you interact with the world. This idea that perhaps everybody should be the same is very, very wrong, and it's a dangerous thought. I mean, that's what Hitler did. And we all know where that went. It's a heinous crimes against humanity that were perpetrated against the Jews and other people. So the point I'm trying to make is, don't let your biases or prejudices or preconceived notions get in the way. Put them aside. Try to become a better person than that. And you know what? You're going to lead a very rich and interesting life when you do that. And that's the point here. Number 9, having the conversation with number 6, and one person thinking they're very odd and the other one doing the same, saying, why are they standing on their head? Truly, they're not really standing on their head. They're viewing the world from a different perspective. And guess what? So should you, if you hope and want to grow. And with that, my friends, all the best. Take care of yourself, your family, and please know you're always on my mind.